Hello everyone. So the next concept that we will be looking in the insecticides and pesticides is juvenile hormones. Now these are a pair of hormones which are secreted by the endocrine glands behind the brain called as corpora allata. That means this particular gland is present in the insects in the brain. Juvenile hormones are important for the production of eggs in female insects. So, juvenile hormones are said to be responsible for the production of eggs in female insects. Now, when we observe that these are responsible for the production of eggs, if it is given in a more quantity or less quantity, it can be seen that it can act as an insecticide or a pesticide. So, juvenile hormones not only it controls the eggs production, but also it might control the diapause and polyphenism. That means a particular genotype system giving me a particular phenotype system of an insect. Now, in insects, juvenile hormones they were earlier called as neotenins. This refers to a group of hormones which ensure growth of the larva while preventing metamorphosis. So, when we look at the life cycle of an insect, there will be an adult insect which will give eggs. Further, that will be converted to a larva. That means it will be metamorphized into larva, further into pupa, and then an adult insect is formed. Now, in juvenile hormones, if we give more amount of juvenile hormone as an insecticide, this will prevent several species of insects from maturing and it can be used as controlling insects. Now, once at a larval stage, if it is given, we will see that it will remain at the larval stage only and it will never go to an adult stage. Or if it is given at a pupal stage, that means it will never get developed into an adult stage and hence juvenile hormones can be used in this way, that is the next stage of an insect cycle is never reached. Now there will be certain synthetic analogues of juvenile hormones which are used as an insecticide. They may not be the same naturally occurring component, with some changes they can be synthesized in the laboratory. Now what do? They prevent the larva from developing into adult insects. That means the larval stage will remain larval stage only. If an high levels of juvenile hormones is given, what happens is larva can still molt. That means it will become into a bigger larva, but it will never become an adult. If it doesn't become an adult, then there is no question of continuation of the cycle. So an example for such type of juvenile hormones would be Cecropia juvenile hormone. The structure is a long chain structure with the presence of a carbonyl carbon and a three-membered ring. It contains C double bond C, which can be observed in an IR system, and a long chain system which is carbonyl carbon system is also observed. In turn, this can be observed as an ester. Now this is an ester which will appear around 1740 in an IR system. There are many other juvenile hormones which can be observed, but these are said to be juvenile hormone mimics. Why do we call juvenile hormone mimics? Because they are synthesized in the laboratory. An example can be juvenile hormone 3, methopron 3. That is, after using 30,000 milligram per kg, it can act as a mimic and hence it will not allow the larval stage to develop. Phenoxycarb, pyriproxyfen. Then there are some mimics called as ecdysone mimics, that is 20-hydroxy-ecdysone and tebuphenoxide. Now these do not allow the pupal stage to further continue into an adult stage. That means they will never allow the molting system and hence they are called as ecdysone mimics. So these are some of the examples for the juvenile hormones as insecticides. Next, coming to insect repellents. Now, what is a repellent? That means to send far away. That means a particular component is utilized so that the insects never approach. Now, this is insect repellent. It is also called as bug spray. It is a substance applied to skin, clothing, or other surfaces which discourages the insect. Basically, these insects can be arthropods in general from landing or climbing on the surface. So once they can spread, the insects never land onto that surface. Now, insect repellents help prevent and control the outbreak of insect-borne and other arthropod-borne diseases. Now, these can be used to control malaria, Lyme disease, dengue fever, bubonic plague, river blindness, and West Nile fever. So, these are all the components of particular diseases which are carried by the insects. Now, certain bacteria they they are carried by the mosquitoes as vectors, and hence they have to be controlled. That means mosquitoes are controlled so that these diseases are never developed. Now, pest animals commonly serving as insects, some of the pest animals, they always act as vectors for diseases, include insects such as flea, fly, mosquito, and arachnid. We have already seen that malaria and dengue is caused by the mosquitoes, which act as a vectors for these particular disease. Now, some insect repellents are insecticides, that is, they are bug killers, but most simply they discourage the insects and send them flying or crawling away. That means they do not allow them to land onto a particular surface. Almost any might kill at a massive dose. That means they might not be able to kill, but they will not allow the insect to come near. But classification as an insecticide implies death even at lower doses. We always see that insecticide means to kill, but here in insect repellents, that means to repel far away. That means it might not kill the insect, but it might just allow the insect to move away from the particular surface. Now, common synthetic insect repellents can be methyl anthranilate and other anthranilate based insect repellents. DEET, that is N-diethyl M-toluamide, dimethyl carbamate, dimethyl phthalate. Now, this is not commonly used, but still it is occasionally being used in an active ingredient. Now, some of these insect repellents may be natural. That means they can be extracted from a naturally occurring components. Beautyberry, that is Calicarpa leaves, these are acting as an insect repellents. Birch tree bark is traditionally made into a tar. Now, this tar, when it is combined with another oil like fish oil at an half dilution, then it is applied to the skin for repelling mosquitoes. Now, this is a naturally occurring insect repellent. Now, bog myrtle, that is Mircea gale, catnip oil whose active component is nipitolactone. Now, these are some of the naturally occurring insect repellents. Let us try to synthesize certain insect repellents. One of them would be DEET. Now, this is N-diethyl metatoluamide. Metatolvic acid reacts with thionyl chloride to give metatolvyl chloride. What happens is the carboxylic group OH is now attacked by SOCl2 to give me SOCl. Further, it is then removed as SO2 and then Cl is replaced. This metatolulyl chloride would react with N-diethylamine, so that now HCl is removed and I will be getting an N-diethyl metatolvamide. Now, in this particular system, in an NMR system, the protons of the benzene ring will appear between 6 to 7. Carbonyl carbon is observed in an IR in an amide, that is 1680. This CH2 appears as a quadrate. There will be two CH2s which will be appearing as a quadrate system, but they will be downfield system. This methyl group acts as it appears as an singlet in a proton NMR. So this is how we can establish DEET spectroscopically. Coming to next example called as dimethyl phthalate. In this, phthalic anhydride reacts with methyl alcohol. Now, this phthalic anhydride, when it reacts with methyl alcohol, the opening reaction of this phthalic anhydride takes place to give me an half ester. That means CH3 C double bond O, and half ester is synthesized. Further, this half ester is further reacted with methyl alcohol, and with the removal of a molecule, it is going to give me diester. Now, this particular diester, it is called as dimethyl phthalate. In an IR, the carbonyl carbon is appearing in the range of 1740. These two methyl groups, they appear as singlet in the downfield shift, and then the protons of this benzene would appear in the range of 6 to 7. In this way, dimethyl phthalate also can be established spectroscopically. So these are some of the insect repellents that could be synthesized in the laboratory. Next, coming to molluscicides. Now these molluscicides, they are called as snail baits. That means they are used to control snails. They are also called as snail pellets or slug pellets. Now these control mollusks, which are usually used in agriculture or gardening in order to control gastropod insects, specifically slugs, snails which damage the crops or other valued plants by feeding on them. Now the snails and then slugs, they eat the plants and hence they damage the agricultural plants. Hence molluscicides are used as an insecticide. There will be number of components that can be used as molluscicides. Common examples are metal salts such as iron 3 phosphate, aluminum sulfate, ferric sodium, EDTA. This is also relatively non-toxic and used in organic gardening. Now these metal salts, they are used in organic gardening. Metaldehyde, methocarb, acetylcholine esterase inhibitors, highly toxic to other animals and humans. They also act as contact poison and hence these type of inhibitors are generally not used as molluscicides. But metaldehyde and methocarb are synthesized in the laboratory. Let us observe how they are synthesized. Synthesis of methaldehyde. When paraformaldehyde is heated in the presence of H2SO4 at 25 degrees, a six-membered ring is synthesized which is called as metaldehyde. Once the temperature is reduced to minus 10 degrees, a seven-membered ring is synthesized with an ethereal linkage and we will be getting two forms of metaldehyde. Now both of them, they act as molluscicide system only. Whatever protons are attached to these oxygens, they always give in a downfield shift in a proton NMR. Synthesis of methocarb. Methocarb is synthesized by 3,5-dimethyl 4-methyl-thiophenol which reacts with methyl isocyanate. Now this OH would go and attack onto the carbonyl carbon of methyl isothiocyanate to give me methocarb. There are two methyl groups attached to the benzene ring which will go as singlet in a downfield shift. The protons of the benzene rings which are 2, they will be again downfield shift between 6 to 7. NH is going to give me an D2 exchange system. There is an SCH3 over here. This methyl group is also going to come as a singlet in a proton NMR system. Now here we can observe an ester carbonyl carbon in an IR. It will be giving me in terms of 1740. N system which is attached to a methyl. This is again going to give me a singlet in proton NMR and it is going to give me a de-shielding effect. So this is how we can establish methocarb. Thank you.